quick-witted response from the devs on TikTok. This is wild that... This is... Okay, so first of all, I see Focus. So this is the publisher. This is the publisher. That said, I mean, you know, it's a blanket statement sometimes to just call them the devs. You know, it really doesn't matter. Frankly, though, it kind of does if you're complaining to Focus about game mechanics. You know, you're not going to get a good response, I guess. Or you might get a quick response, though. Okay. Just to clarify, yeah, I wanted to point out this was Focus, but, okay. Wonder how many employees they have for Space Marines 2, because content drops sure are slow. And Focus responds, we can spare 3 men for the development of Space Marine 2. Okay, I think this is funny. But we do have some news about how the Games Workshop CEO actually is keeping a good eye on Space Marine 2. Some earnings came out recently. I'm not going to break down the earnings, but basically most of the money that Games Workshop made, I think like the last couple years or something, most of it has been from the video games, which is interesting. I mean, honestly, it's probably going to net a broader audience than the tabletop. The tabletop has a lot going on for it, but you know, it's one of those investment things you need to invest money and time in, and not a lot of people have that. But you know, it's really easy to, you know, buy Space Marine 2 on sale, or you know, any of the other 40K games that they have made. Regardless, my suggestion when getting into 40K is definitely, you know, pace yourself. So I've been doing some painting here and there. It's very relaxing. I very much enjoy it. I'm looking forward to playing the game one day as well. But for now, I do have Space Marine 2 that I invested quite a lot of time in. And it's also something I enjoy to play every day. So it's just very nice that we see, you know, first of all, Focus giving out these quick-witted responses. That said, I do have a twist on this. Because of Games Workshop CEO kind of keeping a close eye on Space Marine 2, which I'll get to in a moment. I think both of these companies, or even Focus, Games Workshop, Saber, I think they really need to basically pace themselves also, not as far as content drops, but as far as looking towards the future. It's great that Space Marine 2 is doing great. Like, it honestly is. Space Marine 2 deserves all the flowers that it gets. I honestly would put it in the underrated category for this year, considering Horde Mode's going to come out, and that's going to be a great content drop. So for this year, I think Space Marine 2 has a lot going on for it, and it might be overlooked by a lot of new games or something like that. So I would say Space Marine 2 is in an underrated spot right now, where it's going to peak, and then we will see how interest grows from that. You know, that said, a lot of people have already played Space Marine 2. They did the campaign. They probably enjoyed their time, and they're just waiting for a reason to come back. So, with all that said, I think there is something I would like to point out to the Games Workshop CEO, even though he's not going to watch this video. But I just want to you know, basically bring up a point that I think we should all slow down for a second. Games Workshop CEO actively looking for next Space Marine 2 level success. So, that's a funny picture there. I've seen a couple of these articles pop up recently. I wanted to talk about it a day earlier, but I really wanted some time to kind of collect my thoughts a bit. But I will say, this is nice to hear. What concerns me is they're looking for the next Space Marine 2 level success. And that is probably going to take quite a bit of time to develop. And I would just want to suggest here, honestly, perhaps maybe they should start investing their time and resources into just making Space Marine 2 the best possible game it can be. Now, it's nice we're getting a Horde mode, but I'd be ignoring the fact that a lot of people would want a story DLC, which I'm pretty sure Saber and Focus said wasn't going to happen, which makes sense. I mean, we're getting a lot of new operations, we're getting a lot of new cosmetics, we're getting other things. But it's weird that we're at a point in this game where it's basically being treated like a light live service in a sense, and I think that gives Games Workshop an opportunity to kind of revisit the conversation of the live service model, or even a story DLC to kind of revisit this conversation with Focus and Saber, because I think this is, instead of looking for the next Space Marine 2 success, why don't you just capitalize on the success you already have? There's really, I understand why these companies want to look forward to the next thing, because that is what they're going to start basically contributing resources to. They're going to start developing a new game, and they're going to hope to, have to basically grow their brand even more with the next game. But I gotta be honest, as someone who plays Space Marine 2, I think there obviously is a couple things we need to patch for as soon as possible, and then there's some things that can cook, like Horde mode. But I'm saying, basically, why not just a DLC you could sell for like $40, and it could essentially be like half, maybe even more. But you basically could, you can you can sell the DLC for $40 without making a whole different game. So there's really no reason to just say no DLC. I know there's a lot going on right now. There's a lot of different games coming out. There's tons of things going on in the game industry that just makes things fragile, basically. So since you already have a game that is doing as well as Space Marine 2, you basically should really just contribute some more resources to that to just continue growing the game, growing Warhammer, growing the company of Games Workshop. That is the minimal amount of resources you would have to put in. Like, you wouldn't, like, making a whole new game would take time and effort, and I think the fact that they're prepared for that is very nice to hear. But sometimes I think they could just like slow down a bit. Maybe you should revisit Space Marine 2 DLC first, in a way to just capitalize on the success you have now. Or even a new operation or something. Go back to the drawing board just really, really fast to see, okay, what if there's like a Night Rain situation with this game? You know what I mean? Night Rain's gonna be like $40. And I could see something similar to that working with Space Marines 2. But I just think there's a lot more possibilities to grow the game that they have now to basically get what they want from a new game. They essentially can get the results of getting a new game just by growing the game they already made. That's kind of how games work now. Like Darktide started pretty slow, but then also started to grow. And same goes for like Fortnite, to be completely honest. I really hate to make that, I really hate to bring up Fortnite to make that comparison. It's kind of annoying, but Fortnite didn't just start with Battle Royale. It didn't. They kind of went back to the drawing board and said, hey, we could do this because we can pull it off. I think Games Workshop, I think Saber, I think Focus, I think these companies are in a position to do that with this game, and I just want them to hold off on, looking for the next level success when you already have success that you can even further capitalize on. So, I don't know. Let me know in the comments how you feel about that. I've seen these articles, and I just wanted to talk about that. I know I don't know anything about game development. I never developed a game. But I feel like some of these points are just easy enough to make, where it's like, dude, honestly, you could save money for the time being just supporting this game just a little bit more. That said, we do have leaked content for 2026, I believe. It's just more cosmetics and stuff. But with that said, I think that puts in room that they could add like another Horde mode level update in the coming years, or it's pretty wild. Like, a lot of these game developers now, they don't just, like, especially with the Destiny 2 conversation, Darktide, they don't just put out a game and then go ahead and make another game now, because you don't even know how well that other game is going to do in the landscape of today's game industry. It's like, dude, making another game just adds a lot of risk now, whereas in the past it probably wouldn't. But now it's like, so you already have people recognized with Space Marine 2. You might as well just keep capitalizing on that and just keep putting out updates with that. But that said, I'm not too sure if the game can handle it. I'm not too sure what the dev situation is. Can they only spare 2 men? Or what is it? I can spare 3 men? Regardless, I think I can only spare 2 men for the development of Space Marines 2. It's a new meme I'm getting it. Because it's referring to the campaign and how Titus only has 2 partners to do all this crazy stuff with. So I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think we really are in a good spot with the game that they can make a move like this. Regardless, let's get into some reactions here. Let's see how people are kind of see if they're excited or a little bit more pessimistic with the workshop CEO already looking for the next game's success. You know, I don't know. I should probably read the article because maybe the title here is making it a little bit more rash, making it a little bit more, you know, less patient than it really is, you know what I mean? I'd like a first-person Deathwatch game. The intro to Space Marine 2 got a lot of buzz around Deathwatch, which have been practically abandoned by Games Workshop since the release of Primaris. They should update them on the model range and then give a FPS Xenocide game. That or a really cool Horus Heresy game would work, but both RTS as well as FPS, TPS, I need it. What I do not want to see again is any more small-scale squad turn-based and card use games that seem to release every month on every platform. Yeah, that's people practically renting the Warhammer 40k copyright or whatever. The IP, basically you can, you know, spend money for the IP to use it in a game. But Games Workshop, the fact that they're on that sort of thing, you know, like they're very focused on how people use their IP is very good, to be honest. That's a fine place to be for Game Workshop. But okay, so I brought up Night Rain, and I think this is already a good idea, and I think honestly they could totally pull this off, like a Deathwatch, basically a Deathwatch B project that is practically Space Marine 2, but maybe more of a like randomly generated co-op online experience. Like seriously, Night Rain was a good idea for From Software as far as like extending the universe of Elden Ring. I know it's not canon, but like extending basically the IP and just giving out more content for Elden Ring enjoyers. Like I'm gonna play Night Rain, so so it's not like an idea like a Deathwatch game is something that I'd hold off on. You know what I mean? Now I do understand how people can see Night Rain as like From Software not giving it their all or whatever, but it feels to be just to be like extra, basically. It's just another game that they can do because they knew they could do it. So it's like at that point it's kind of like, okay. They're not like forcing it through is my point. They basically have the means, they have the capability. They don't need to sell it as a full game. Like Deathwatch could totally do something like that, or as at least as a base. So I don't know. I do like this idea. Now I know I kind of started this video off talking about if the content, you know, they're putting out is too slow, but I genuinely believe the content they are putting out is at a good pace, especially since we're in the realm of ideas now for what is next for Space Marines 2. Is it more Space Marines 2? Is it a Night Rain situation, you know? So, I don't know. I think we should be okay with the pace of putting out content because they're clearly looking down the road, is my point. Oh no, how can a studio, Saber, not focus, dare to deliver a finished product in launch and follow up on it with additional free content and optional paid cosmetics to support development of said free content? I rarely buy new games on launch nowadays, but I was willing to get the Ultra Edition of Space Marine 2, and it was worth it. I have close to 200 hours now, finished the campaign twice, have almost everything unlocked in PvE, and haven't even touched PvP yet. Oh, okay, well that's a good spot to be in. But yeah, I mean, he's right about the free additional content. See, that I think people are just kind of caught on the fence of, you know, is it a live service, is it not, and that kind of can muddy up the criticism a bit because you never really know what direction people are coming from with this thing. Dare to deliver a finished product in launch and follow up with the additional free content and optional pod. Yeah, I don't know. I genuinely seeing the enthusiasm of the CEO definitely makes me a bit more patient. I have to be honest. I understand there's definitely people who are criticizing the post-launch release or the post-launch updates or whatever. I think this month is the 1 month they have a point because I know there will not be an update this month. There will likely be an update on February, like 100%. But I don't know. I think they have a patient approach to the game at this point, knowing that there might be more in store for the game. You know, down the line this year. So ultimately, I don't see the updates for the beginning of the year as important as what is coming down the line. Basically, that's kind of how I'm looking at it. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot to be said right now. I pretty much am juggling like two subjects here and kind of relating the two, just in the hopes to kind of let people know that, hey, if the Games Workshop CEO is happy with Space Marine 2, sure, you can be criticizing you can criticize the post-launch updates if you want for whatever reason. But that said, you are going to have to eat your words when they actually post, when they actually put up post-launch content that you enjoy. So I don't know. It just goes both ways. Some people aren't very, they're not coming at this subject with the best of faith. I feel like sometimes they just want to complain about something. And if that's the case, then just let them vent, If they say something that's worth taking seriously, then take it seriously. But otherwise, just random nonsense statements, without any merit, really aren't worth getting into when you know that there's going to be a lot that goes into the post-launch updates for this game. It's just not the time yet. So I don't know. I would say be patient. I think there's a lot of good coming down the line with the game. I also just wanted to point out the Games Workshop CEO's words to kind of support my point that being patient is going to pay off. Regardless, if they're interested in a more Space Marine 2 style success, I think some people have some good ideas for game modes here. We are once again asking for Battlefront Horus Heresy Battlefront 40K with Imperial Guard and the occasional Space Marine as a hero unit. Okay, so I don't know about the specifics for that, but the Battlefront 40K game has been something people have mentioned. Battlefront, if you don't know, is basic. I don't know why they're using Battlefront. It should be Battlefield. At least I'm pretty sure. Regardless, it's pretty much a large, multiplayer. It's team deathmatch, but it's basically a war-centered multiplayer where you have tanks, you have helicopters, you have smaller enemies and stuff like that. Which I think this is a good idea. Battlefront's the Star Wars version of it, I'm pretty sure, but I don't have the most experience with that sort of game. I played it a little bit when it first released, and I had fun with it. But I can see a 40K, I can see a 40K version going pretty hard. So I've seen a lot of people mention this, and I would be down for it. I would 100% be down for it. That said, this is just such a huge game to make, and a lot of people mentioned this. So I can, it's possible the Games Workshop CEO definitely, keeps an eye on this idea, or at least it comes up through the pipeline. That said, we are getting a new PvP mode. Apparently, that's what it says on the roadmap. Not saying it's going to be something like this, but we're not 100% sure what they have in store for PvP. I think this is a good idea, though. Am I tripping, or didn't they say they would add more content because the game sold so much more well than expected? It just seems they said that, and they're just continuing with what they had planned on the roadmap originally, and that's it. Okay, so yes, this is basically the comment that I think is going to lean towards what I'm trying to get at here, basically. So yes, I agree with what they're saying here. We should definitely see more from the game. I just wanted to point out the Games Workshop CEO's words, apparently, for Space Marine 2, because I think this is now a situation that is much more likely. Because, yeah, it's going to take a lot to make a new game, and I think obviously the way the industry now is, it's going to take a lot more than it used to take to get out a Space Marine 3 or a Battlefield 40K game, which would be amazing. Just supporting Space Marine 2 will go a very long way, and then hopefully it would also bring in profit enough to give them some resources for the next game. It seems they said they're just continuing what they had planned for the roadmap. Yeah, don't expect anything. Don't expect anything I'm saying here to be something that's going to be immediately addressed. If there's going to be more stuff added to the roadmap, I would expect them to announce something like that towards the end of the roadmap, basically. There's no reason for them to announce anything too early if they haven't even gotten started on it yet. I bet you they're basically just going to the drawing board when it comes to more content for this game. And yeah, I would just be patient. I would 100% be patient. But now it's going to pay off more to be patient in this game, basically. Because I made a video like this before, but now I think the takes in that video are starting to age very well as far as them noticing how successful Space Marine 2 is and how much more they can do for it, basically. So, yeah, definitely stay patient. This is good energy to have. Definitely just keep the devs, on the ball with it. There's no real reason to just start flaming a game that you're enjoying. It's just kind of ridiculous. And if you're not enjoying it, there's nothing wrong with just moving on to another game, and then maybe Space Marine 2 will have an update that you are interested in, and then just come back to the game. This is why it helps to keep a level head with your criticism, because sometimes people can get too emotional about it and essentially ruin their hobby for themselves just from being too emotional. It's like, yeah, if it negatively impacts your actual well-being because you are essentially overreacting, it's not going to be something that you want to come back to. That's why it's very important to kind of, reel yourself in and just kind of calm down sometimes and realize there's other things out there for you, you know what I mean? Or just, it's healthy. It's healthier not to get super invested into one thing, kind of, be a well-rounded person, not just making sure the devs of the game are performing to your expectations. Sometimes just take the news for what it is, be patient, and don't get super mad or worked up because you're just going to ruin it for yourself, because you're going to get, you're only going to have negative feelings when you think about it. Basically, it's kind of hard to put into words, but essentially, if you basically overreact, it is just going to negatively impact the way you view the thing that you used to enjoy. And sometimes it's just not worth it. You know what I mean? It's not worth it to overreact. It helps to be critical, but it doesn't help to, to get actually angry about something like this. It really depends. But yeah, I understand the criticism. I've even read some comments here that were, they basically are just like, it's really weird how many people are just completely disassociated with this, because a lot of people are criticizing the game for not having like weekly content drops like a live service or whatever, but then people are also pointing out it's kind of like a light live service anyway. So I don't know. I think just it really depends on how you approach the game. Right now, if the game's not delivering to what you want and they're not dropping content for you as much as you want, there's nothing wrong with going and trying out other games. But yeah, that said, I think it's going to pay off to be very patient with this game. So I pretty much said everything I had to say. I kind of rambled on here and there, and the subject is a little juggly. I'm juggling between two different subjects here, but I think there's some crossover here, because I thought the Games Workshop CEO even mentioning Space Marine 2 as like probably the success they had, the better part of the success they had over these years is just really nice, because the game's still fairly new, guys. It came out in September. And we're not even a year deep into the roadmap yet, so I think that there's a lot of good signs here to be fairly optimistic.